How do we open up to space?
Yes.
So, the best I can offer is, when I'm, for example, in a physical practice, can I invite spaciousness? So, we mentioned yoga as the tightrope or the razor's edge. In yogasana, for example, or like in the river, the place that flows easiest is in the middle, yeah? So, when I'm working with my body, can I stay in the space of the center? I don't know if, like, I used to teach a lot of asana classes many years ago. I still teach physical yoga practices, but I used to teach that, like, kind of loads. And at that time, I don't know what it's like now, but sometimes some instructors would say, they talk about finding the edge in a posture, yeah? And for me, the edge in yoga isn't the extreme. The edge is the place, it's like the sweet spot. It's a place of spaciousness that allows you to grow. So for example, if we go to an extreme, how does the body react? It goes into fight or flight, and growth is not possible there. So if I want to invite my body or my reality to be more spacious, I think it's really helpful to think about, how can I cultivate a sweet spot? How can I expand the space of the center? So I want to invite roominess into my body. So I'm moving in such a way that I'm inviting space and freedom around the joints, rather than trying to get to some edge. Does that make sense? Yeah? And then in more broader in life is, this is interesting because I've been feeling quite rushed this week. I just found out Friday that I was going to leave Mysore 10 days sooner than I'd imagined. And there were lots of things I wanted to do before I left, and so I've been feeling a little bit... And it makes me conscious. I went out of Mysore last night to a friend's house who lives in a village. We left at 4 p.m. It's not very far, like 20 minutes we're there. And my friend, he's milking his cows and doing all the work in the garden. He did let me help him for a little bit, and then he said, no, go out. So I go out into the fields, and I thought I was going to go for a long walk. But I walked a little while, and I found the path was kind of just very gently sloped. And there were trees, and it was quite shady. It was like 4:30, it's still quite hot. So I sat down on the earth in the shade. I was just walking barefoot, and I sat down, and then I lay down on the ground for about 40 minutes. And looking at the sky and listening to the birds. And I was like, wow, I've been so cityfied in the rhythm I've been running at in the last few days. And so I talk about this all the time in my work, you know. We have to invite spaciousness into the day. So one of my friends that I met here in Mysore said, his teacher said to him, he's called Patrick, and his teacher says, Patrick, if you don't have time to meditate 1 hour a day, then you need to meditate 2 hours a day. The idea, when we give ourselves time and space to come to the medi state. So, yoga is about efficiency, yeah? I might not need to do a 1 hour or 6 hour meditation, yeah? But realistically, I might realize, well, actually, it is worth me spending 15 or 30 or 45 minutes. If I consecrate that slightly longer period than I might reflexively choose, it actually sets me up for a more spacious day. Because like we said, yoga is very practical. What we practice, we get good at, we get attuned to. So my mother, she died a few years ago, but my mother was a woman who was very active. And at her funeral, one of the jokes that was mentioned was one of her best friends used to laugh about. They would travel to work together, and my mum would kind of like, you know, in the car, like scream, like she wouldn't screech the brakes, but she would, you know, come and pick her friend up and say, "Oh, I just finished my meditation." You know, she just squeezed it in. Yeah. And so if we start the day rushing, it's like we set ourselves up to rush. Now, these days, there's so many influences that can kind of push us towards rushing. It was several years ago now, on January the 1st, I said to myself, I do not have time to rush. But I've not embodied that as well as I can definitely make progress in that direction. But there's nothing I know better than if we do have the courage to say, I'm going to start the day spaciously. I'm going to say no to looking at the screen and the inbox before I've looked inside this box. I'm going to let myself gather, and I'm going to remind myself, yoga remembering, I'm going to remind myself how I want to meet this day. What energy do I want to share with life and the world and the people I meet this day? What qualities do I want to embody and deepen and strengthen? What tendencies do I want to refine? And start the day prayerfully, intentionally like this, and claim some space, yeah? Now they say in the Indian system, Krishna in the Gita says you have to be the sovereign of your life. What you do and how you do it is up to you. The consequences of our actions, we don't know. But how we act, we have some agency here. So be the sovereign. And they say in Sanskrit, the king or the queen is not shaped by the external world and the time. Rather, the sovereign shapes the time. And yoga exhorts us again and again to be the sovereign. So I've caught myself this week, I've got 17 different things to do. Yes, I'm the king. Of course I've got 17 different things to do. But I have all these powers to help me. And if I invite myself into spaciousness and I consult with these powers, surely we can manage things a little bit more spaciously. So the best I can offer is practice spaciousness diligently. Because, my first meditation teacher used to emphasize, he says, you don't need to look far to find an invitation to scatter your awareness or to direct your awareness to things which will not satisfy you. Towards these, let's say, artificial happiness-chasing pursuits. We're constantly being, buy this, do this, go here, get this, and then you'll be happy. He says, you have to look a bit more carefully to find the invitation for something that will bring real fulfillment. But it's always with you. You just have to practice it. But he said, to practice that, sometimes it will feel like you're in London on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock in one of the very big underground stations, and you're going up the down escalator. Sometimes it will feel like that. That's why you have to be a warrior. That's why you have to have courage and commitment to that spaciousness.